Hello friends, my name is Oleg Zayanov, I'm a director of photography. I live and work in Los Angeles, California, but today I find myself in one of the most delicious cities on the planet. And today we are here for the reason. Today I will show you the most effective, yet simple and accessible tools and techniques for food videography. This is my new masterclass. Let's get started. I am not in the studio, I am at the kitchen of one of the Moscow's most famous food bloggers. So whatever you are already running your own culinary channel or just started one, maybe you specialize in restaurant food photography, product photography, or even produce your own food, this masterclass is for you. Moreover, you can start applying all these techniques right in your own kitchen right now. All you need in terms of equipment it's a basic camera. Even a standard kit lens, such as 17-55, will do. If you're already shooting with a video camera or camera capable of video recording, any standard zoom lens like 24x70, 70-55 or 18-35 will work. The most important thing is that you will need two focal lengths. One lens should be wide angle, and the other slightly longer, say like 50 mm. If you don't have a video camera or if you lack certain lenses, a regular smartphone will work as well. For quite some time now, they have been nearly on par with traditional cameras in terms of video quality, especially the new iPhones, and under certain conditions they can even outperform them. So, what do? We set the highest image quality, the maximum image quality on our camera or smartphones. Shoot in 4K and at the frame rates of around 60 by 50 frames per second. This will be useful during post-production to slow down our video, making our footage even more impressive. Videos shot in slow motion looks even juicy. If you are using a smartphone for shooting, it's the best to use specialized video recording apps such as Filmic Pro or the new Blackmagic cinema camera. I have a dedicated post on my Instagram where I gathered all the essential applications for shooting and post-processing your videos on your mobile phones. The link to this post will be in the descriptions of the lesson. You will also need at least one light source in addition to the lighting you already have in your kitchen, such as natural sunlights from a window or any existing kitchen fixtures. It's best to start shooting during daylight hours and make the most of the natural lights from your window. This is the best lighting, but still, if you want to achieve a vibrant, high-quality and delicious-looking image, you will need to use additional light source. This can even be small and inexpensive device that can significantly enhance your image quality. Ideally, you can use a softbox like this one. It's quite affordable and you can easily blend its light with the natural Windows lights. You can also use the regular desk lamp or bulbs, but you will need to change the bulb to one of the daylight's color temperature. To determine this, remember that sunlight it's a cool light. Daylight has a temperature of 5600 Kelvin. Look for this application on the packaging of the bulb you intend to purchase. If you mix window cold light with warm yellowish bulb, the post-processing image will have a moody tone and immediately lose quality. You will also need what's called fill light. And you can use either a regular reflector or simply a large white foam board. Place the reflection fill light on the opposite sides of your main light source. This is done to control the depth of shadows on the object you are shooting. And again, as a reflector, you can use something as simple as white poster board. A professional reflector or even surface in your kitchen, your countertop or your white walls will do as well. Adapt to your environment, okay? You use a reflector only to avoid having deep black shadows in your frame. Use the reflector to fill light in these areas that might otherwise end up as deep dark spots in your shoot. It always looks unprofessional. Now let's talk about camera settings. We'll finish it up with setting up your camera, whether it's a smartphone or professional camera, and now we are moving on to practice. It doesn't matter what you are shooting with. The most important thing is not to skimp on your SD cards, and don't skimp on memory in your device. Shoot at the highest quality. It should be probably 4K. It should have a frame rate of 50 or 60 frames per second, because the frames shot in slow motion every time looks very modern and cool. Let's also talk about exposure. Your image should not have these bright overexposed areas in the frame, as they contain no information. They look like home videos, and you won't be able to recover anything from the later. So lower the ISO, increase the shutter speed value accordingly, and only adjust the aperture on your lens as a last resort to darken your image. If you're shooting with a smartphone, the aperture value fixed. But if you're using a professional photo or video camera, the aperture value is incredibly important. Your lens gives the maximum image quality and value around 4. So don't close the aperture further to make the image darker. You can open it slightly to blur the background, making the image more captivating. If you go stronger, it will be harder to focus. Your shot will become even brighter with a slightly open aperture. If you have highlights in bright area, reduce the ISO or increase the shutter speed value. There shouldn't be any bright overexposed area in your shot. You can adjust the aperture either directly on your lens or through the camera's program. You can also lower the ISO value to its minimum. Don't increase the shutter speed value too much. It's best to simply reduce the overall lighting in your kitchen. If you have deep dark areas in your shot, your image will look low quality and it will give the impression of home video. This is where reflectors come in. In other words, you adjust the bright area with ISO value, shutter speed, aperture and the overall lighting in your kitchen. If you have a dark shadows, you add either an additional light source or use a reflector with the opposite directions from your main light source. So we have covered camera settings, and now it's time for practice, exercise and cool techniques. Let's go! Friends, when you're shooting your video for the promotion of a cafe, restaurants or food production, never forget to capture wide-angle shots of your kitchen or workspace, because people always find it incredibly interesting to see the big picture, to see where you're doing this. To see the picture of the kitchen, restaurants or cafe, it's an entirely to see the whole space, not just the close-ups, even if they are beautiful, but simple just close-ups of food. Then focus on your main location, your primary table, where you'll present products and cook. That's where you can set up your camera, whether on a tripod or handheld. You can shoot from the ceilings, the side or underneath. Use your camera on a tripod or in handheld. Create panoramic views from the ceilings, pointing down to your table. You can also create a side panorama. This showcases your workspace and will be your second shot in your video. Your primary workspace, your table, where you'll place products and work. Even if you haven't placed anything on your main table yet, you can add some dynamics. For example, roll in some fruit or use your hands with a knife. You can also showcase your work table, probably the most recognizable shot in any food shot. This shot is when your camera is mounted perpendicularly to your table, on the top, like this. We'll use this shot 1,000 times. We will use it constantly in any food shot. And not because it was invented by food photography stars or bloggers, but because it's actually the most important physiological shot. That's how our viewers, every person, sees the food being served. That's how we see the food, we look at it perpendicularly from above, actually like in real life. So we evaluate the products, we evaluate the quality and appearance of all dishes. That's how we see the food, we look at it perpendicularly from above. That's how we see the food. We evaluate the products this way and assess the quality and appearance of all dishes. You can use a regular Jeep crane tripod, but if you don't have one, don't worry, you can use a handheld camera. If you're looking to learn some cool tricks, a camera with a tripod will be handy. We'll need a static camera for this. How do you mount it? You can use a simple, lightweight and cheap tripod. The lighter the tripod, the better. I will use the slightly heavier one, but the lighter your tripod, the easier it will be to create this shot. We clear our workspace. We will always use one side for work and the other side for the technical equipment, like cameras, tripods and stabilizers for smartphones or cameras. We clear our main surface, take our tripod and turn it into a monopod. Okay, now it's unstable. Next we need some support. You can use anything as support. In my case it's just ordinary boxes. I set up the tripod on these boxes and on the other side I attach any counterweights. In my case it's a simple water bottle. It's crazy guys, but it works. The cheapest and most convenient way to replace a big crane or tripod. So without using any professional movie making equipment, without using expensive stands, we'll set up our camera perpendicular and completely stable. Sorry for my English, I am literally translated in my car. Now you have a clean white sheet to work on. If you are shooting on a mobile phone, you can use double-sided tape. My students even attach their mobile phones vertically with tape. You can use any stick, a mobile phone tripod, which is even cheaper, costing about like 500 rubles or like $5, or double-sided tape. And most importantly, this is your first task – setup. Position your mobile phone perpendicular to your main working area. Next, about lighting. Lighting is the most important aspect of setting up the lights, and then the principles of lighting placements are always the same in any shoot. You will need, if we are working with two lighting fixtures, you can set up a softbox directly on your camera. You can use the larger softbox, but I will now show you everything using the small light source. Still, it's incredibly powerful, and you can order one of the yourself and use it for food photography, which is also very convenient. You can set up one light source directly on your camera or place two softboxes on both sides to minimize the numbers of shadows. Then your subject will look shadowless. It's a bright advertisement picture, suitable for a wide range of shooting options. However, I always prefer to shoot when there are shadows in the frame, without faults again, and the second light's fixtures can be used as a fill light. But you see, if we continue to lower our softbox and see it up and at an angle about the 45 degrees from our subject, this area becomes darker and shadows appear and our pictures begin to look tastier. Usually the ideal point for setting up your main lights is at an angle of about 45 degrees from your subject, and everything can be filmed. We are not talking a photography but a video, so from two or even one light's fixture, even with its helps, we can create dynamics in our frame. However, I always prefer to shoot when there are shadows in the frame, without faults again, and the second light's fixtures can be used as a fill light. But you see, if we continue to lower our softbox and see it up and at an angle about the 45 degrees from our subject, this area becomes darker and shadows appear and our pictures begin to look tastier. If you have an assistant, you can combine both the dynamics of lights and your camera. So let's try it out. Look, the light is going vertically from the bottom to top. It's moving from bottom to top, and your cameras make such movements. You have an absolutely perpendicular static shot, and together with a combination of light, you have a dynamic image. In other words, you are hardly moving the camera. You have panoramic movements and panoramic lights movements. You can even do this alone. For example, you can use two lights fixture and the movements can come from both sides, and you'll immediately have dynamic. You'll have more interesting content and it will start to attract the viewer's attention. So we have the cameras attached and the lighting is fully set up. And you can use the perpendicular shooting techniques to showcase products. You can also employ this method to present food and your workspace. Use these techniques to reveal the process of cooking and, of course, the final result. You can even highlight your equipment, various gadgets, or unseals with the approach. However, remember that your workspace must always be neat. Every frame should on table and the table itself should be perfectly clean. Even minor details in this type of shooting will be noticeable. Any chips or marks on the surface won't go unnoticed.
Вы можете заявить данным приемом ваше оборудование, да, какую-нибудь технику, либо столовые приборы. Но ваше съемочное место всегда должно быть убрано и чисто, да, то есть каждый кадр, попадающий на ваш стол, и сам стол должен быть в идеальном...
Final video. Therefore, before shooting first, if you are shooting with a mobile phone, touch the camera lens. Even a small fingerprint can significantly degrade the quality of your picture, making it blurry or low quality. It applies to the lens of your camera. Use special fabric clothes for your approach. Don't forget to wipe down your workspace before shooting. You can devise your shooting even in your ordinary kitchen. Use various backgrounds, use different cutting boards. You can buy a wide variety of different cutting boards. You can purchase special tables. You can buy special.
Вы можете разнообразить съемку даже на вашей обычной кухне. Используйте разные фоны, используйте разные разделочные доски.
Of your frame. When you work with food, you are not just a videographer. You are also the designer of your frame. Let's move on to the tricks. So, we start presenting our products, keeping this camera in the same perpendicular position. We have a specific area where we will be shooting. We move the camera and this area we will be shooting is in the middle of our frame. We leave one of the our products. We leave the camera in this top position and start showcasing our products. We have a designated area which we'll be shooting. We adjust the camera and this area we'll be shooting is We have a designated area which we'll be shooting. We adjust the camera and this area we'll be shooting is in the middle of our frame. We adjust one of the products in this static frame, but don't forget about the appearance of different highlights along with camera movements. We will always enhance your image. The appearance of different highlights together with camera movements always adds variety to your image. You can always introduce a second produce. You can also introduce not work perfectly on the first attempt, but anyway, sometimes the first take is the best one for me. Right, only for me the first take often turns out to the best one, but it's not like math, so you may have to do it over and over and over again, time after time, but it's actually a very interesting landing point for our next product. So you can just introduce your products one after another into the frame. And this is technique I call throttling. In Russian it sounds better. Freak number 2, stop motion. If you're shooting with a mobile phone, you can also do the throttling the same. You can also do that the same way on your mobile phone, on the smartphone. You can use slow motion or even shoot at the 24 frames per second, but it's always better to have extra footage for post-production, room for editing. Stop motion is the same. If you're shooting on a smartphone, it's even easier. There you start a completely empty frame, and one by one you simply add an object to your shot. We have tomatoes, mushrooms, lemons, garlic and carrots. So your camera is fixed on time and then remove your hand. Add a product, remove your hand, add a product, remove your hand, and so on until your composition is done. So your camera is fixed on a tripod and you add one product at a time and then remove your hand. Add a product, remove your hand, add a product, remove your hand, and so on until your composition is complete. In post-production you can edit out the process of adding objects and merge everything into a single frame, creating a dynamic stop-motion effect. In post-production this technique is called stop motion and it always looks fresh and dynamic. The most important thing is to focus on the composition you create within each frame. Because with your lighting setup right now everything is in order, yes, you can do just this in one frame. That is when you are doing stop motion, you don't need to move lights anymore. Yes. Your lights should be fixed and stable and the camera does not move. So your lights doesn't move and your lighting doesn't move. So basically your take is a set of different photos and then you combine them into a single video. And it always looks great. Just for me, I don't like stop motion. Okay, so right now we're moving on tip number 3. Tip number 3, camera pan. Yes, we already done this and then you have your compositions ready and after your stop motion shot you can introduce a ready-made composition with a sharp pan. You simply add the pan, for example, boom, and finish. If you're worried that you won't be able to stop like really sharp, you can start by shooting your products from the composition and suddenly move the camera to the side. So do the opposite thing. Then it's in post-production you can reverse it and vice versa, just change the difference of movements. Your camera will arbitrarily stop at your compositions and this will be very sharp transitions, will always look impressive. After that you can zoom in, for example, on each object, add a highlight with an additional light source and, for example, clear your composition with your hand and start preparing. Using the pan principle, you can, for example, show cutlery or appliances. You can pull out drawers and show the cutlery inside them. You can also show spicy using the techniques, show all the necessary detail. This is the best way to showcase small details before starting to cook. Next, it's get more interesting as we move on tip number 4. And now we will be tossing our products. So friends, it's going to get more interesting. We're going to toss our products right into the camera. I remember it was a really fun part. I hope guys you enjoy it and it looks good. And it sounds Good.
Камеру оставляем
I'm
в
not
том же
sure.
самом положении.
I am leaving the camera in the same positions. I will raise it a bit. For this, we'll need some kind of dish or large space to place our products on. I will use the plastic container as an example. You can use a plate, or you can even use a wooden tabletop so that you
такую деревянную столешницу, чтобы просто не раскидать продукты по всей кухне, хотя они и так у нас летают. Итак,
So
я
I'm
выкладываю
laying on the
продукты, которые
so
будут
I'm laying
цеплять
out the
камеру
products
на
that I'll be
вот эту
presenting to the camera on this
на вот эту
plastic
стеклянную
container.
посуду.
Next, we
Далее
turn on the
включаем
camera,
камеру.
focus on the product, and focus on our product from
Берем
above
продукт.
this distance,
Берем
from
продукт
our
и
camera.
фокусируем наш
Alright,
продукт
we
примерно
go
вот
to
на
the
таком
focus and
расстоянии
our product
от
is
нашей
focused
камеры.
and
Всё,
our product
фокус
is
мы
fixed.
поймали,
Now we are moving to the lights.
продукт у нас
Yes, the
зафиксирован. Вот
position
здесь,
in the lights
вот сюда мы
again
будем пытаться
re-angled so
наши
our
продукты
object is
подбросить на
illuminated
расстояние.
at this distance
Вот
from the
такое
camera.
расстояние. Все отодвигаем. Свет мы выставляем, да, то есть у нас сейчас выставляем свет, опять же, под 45 градусов углом, чтобы у нас объект был освещен вот на этом расстоянии от камеры, тоже под углом 45 градусов, да. И сейчас в данный момент я хочу заявлять стол, и снизу мы можем положить какие-нибудь тоже яркие продукты, чтобы они тоже у нас были в кадре, да, то есть мы сейчас заявляем этот стол. И начинаем вот таким вот образом подбрасывать продукты. У нас slow-mo.
We have slow motion 4K at 40 to try several times, even if we catch at we go. Now let's see. You need to try several, at least one face.
А теперь смотрим,
Even
нужно
if we
пробовать
catch at least
несколько
one
раз.
phase where the
Если
products
даже
are
мы
flying
поймали
and
хотя бы
end up in the
одну
focus,
фазу, когда
they
у нас
look so
продукты
spectacular
залетают и
as
оказываются
they
в фокусе,
scatter.
они так эффектно
Skater.
разлетаются и падают вниз в расфокус. Все, это наш кадр, мы его сняли.
You can use the same technique with various products, mix them up and then combine them in post-production. When you talk about mushrooms, you show mushrooms being tossed. When you talk about carrots, mushrooms being... When you talk about mushrooms, you show mushrooms being tossed. When you talk about carrots, you show all products in camera when you use them. When we present When we present products in this way, it's a perfect for your blog or shooting food preparation in restaurants because we are showcasing our kitchen, the table on which we are doing this, we are selling our hands and our dish. If you are shooting in a more commercial style, you probably see these shots where products fly out of the darkness and into bright light and fall into the focus of a camera and then disappear in the darkness again. For this purpose, we shift the lighting at a 180-degree angle, completely perpendicular to the camera. Okay, we set it up. We are going to toss our products not over the table anymore, but over the floor, so we have more distance. We are not lighting our floor in any way, so we are repositioning our camera a little bit, and now we start tossing, but we toss them much stronger, so our products simply bounce up. And the distance between the tray from which we toss our products to our camera was significant. Let's see. And again, if you have at least one frame where one correct face of the products entering the focus of your camera, that's it, you have this shot. The most important thing is that your lighting doesn't not illuminate a 45-degree angle downwards, so that the light does not reach the floor in any way. And you simply adjust the exposure in post-production. Increase the brightness of the highlights and your vegetables and fruits starts to glow in front of your camera. You can also use, for example, when you are prepared for a fruit salad like this, you can use it in a similar example, where you take one of the berries and place it right in front of your lens. Your salad is in the center and the focus is at on a distance. So you focus your berry at and about this distance, right? So your salad is out of the focus, and when you bring the berry closer in your camera, it remains out of focus, and you just release it. In a slow motion, the falling of your berries, your fruit salad, will look incredibly beautiful. So in slow motion, the falling of your berry to your fruit salad will look incredibly beautiful. We're done with shooting perpendicular to the camera. Okay, now we take our camera in our hands and keep going to shoot more dynamic shots with a handheld camera. Here we go.
Мы продолжаем практиковаться и снимать, и приступаем к одной из самых динамичных.
The most dynamic and exciting parts of our masterclass, because we take our camera off the tripod and start shooting handheld. And now it's just us, our camera, our lighting, and an uncooked dinner. So let's go and cook it. Running water. You can shoot this right in your kitchen, right in your sink. We'll be shooting our products under the running water. So up the lighting in the same way, yes, it's about like 45-degree angle, and remember that using using an additional light source from like your kitchen regular lights, it plays a key role in the quality of the footage for your future video. Here we also introduce camera movements with handheld shooting. To shoot products under running water effectively, we can attach them to a regular string. You can tie them to a thread, so in a way you can continue to hold them with your hands. Yes, you can immerse your products in water, and they will appear to hand underwater. Here we also introduce camera movements with handheld shooting. Few days of practice, when you shoot your drags and when you shoot every day for just like 5 days, your movements will become smooth, and you simply hold your camera in your hands and start moving with your entire body along with your camera. And don't worry, in slow motion mode, that is the slow motion shooting, else it's smoother. Objects, you're shooting in the center of your frame, in the same spot, and try to move. And try to move at the same speed as your partner, and set the object on the table. It turns out that you simply follow your objects and your movements constantly, but don't forget about the rules. Of composition. Very important. There are numerous rules of There are numerous rules of compositions, but I will show you the basic ones. That will be useful specifically for food photography work. One of the most basic rules of composition is the rule of third. What is it? So you divide the screen with 4 horizontal and vertical lines and place your main subject at the intersections of these lines. That is, it turns out when you shoot your items on the table, your products will be tend to either the left or the right part of your screen. And even during camera movement, try to keep your products at the intersections of these lines. Contrast rules. If you're shooting contrasting and bright products, it's best to use a lighter background. For example, if you're shooting red tomatoes, you should shoot them on a white background. If you're shooting white mushrooms, shooting them on a white background will be a mistake. For example, if you're shooting red tomatoes, you should shoot them on a white background, or maybe on a blue. If you're shooting the white mushrooms, so don't shoot them on a white background, so it's gonna be a mistake. You even can't see the mushroom. For this, it's better to use a darker background. So for the brighter, use a darker background. For the darker fruits, use a whiter, a brighter background. There is no point in combining bright red tomato with a red paper. If your composition consists of products of different colors and the background serves as a bright spot, your products will stand out vividly, and your products will look juicy against that background. And if your product basket predominantly contains a variety of bright, colorful product, it's best to use monochrome background. Look at how the rules of thirds and the rules of symmetry works. Simultaneously, we take an empty plate and position it according to the rule of third. It occupies the left part of the frame and is positioned at the intersections of our lines. We take our product, which will be a tomato, and positions the tomato. That's it, the center of our plate aligns with the center of these lines. At the moment, the composition is perfectly aligned according to the rule of third, but this part of the frame is quite empty. If, for example, in these compositions we follow the rule of third, it's best to fill the right part of the frame, add some insignificant details, such as a knife from the some utensils, maybe hang a berry, and then the right part of the frame will be balanced. But if you're shooting just one product, like a single tomato, off the plate, it's best to use the rule of symmetry. When you set the plate at the center of your plate aligns with the center of your frame. There is also a cool rule called the rhythm of the composition. You can shoot a large number of small objects, even small products like berries. Close as possible to your object, you can arrange all these objects into an enormous infinity canvas so that there is no big frame, meaning viewers won't understand how many of these berries you have. And if you're shooting a large number of such small details, even different colors, but they laid out in the large canvas, and you're shooting them up close, viewers won't even realize where the beginnings and end of your product once.
Приближаете вашу камеру как можно ближе к точке съемки, и вы можете дать даже такое легкое движение.
For them as is You can just pass over them, as if from above, flying over your multitude of products, and viewers won't understand where the end and where the beginning of your compositions are. It's just an endless expanse. So you set the rhythm of your frame, and of course it's best to shoot products on some for your frame using some frames, and your plate serve as their frames. You can use square, round or various irregular shapes as frame for your products. Don't forget about negative space. If you want to shoot and emphasize, for example, a single lonely berry and
вы можете использовать так называемый прием негативного пространства. Когда вы берете общий план вашего стола и помещаете эту одну ягодку в левый или правый угол вашего пространства и оставляете
on your table, you can use the
пустое пространство.
You can use the negative space technique. When you take a white, leaving a vast negative space, meaning empty space in the background, you will have an incredible emphasis on this special element, meaning it will be the highlights for your frame. And for the instance, you can pick it up and this underline it, adding actions to your frame. Technique number 7. We continue working with the handheld camera, and now we will be throwing our products onto our camera. Here we will need our assistant. Try it. If your frame shake is quite strong, you can of course use a monopod or tripod, but highly recommend that if you are shooting in 4K in slow motion, that is in seconds, so you can work just with your hands. Look, create some space, minimize the background, meaning you maximize your working space as the background. Or your products can serve as the background, and your assistant simply tosses your products onto your camera. Here you can use several camera movements. You can move your cameras along with the items. In this case, we are tossing tomatoes, so at the moment we can work our cameras and move them along with the tomatoes, meaning away. Excellent! Incredible dynamic and cool effect. You can vivid moment of the products with the movements of your camera, and your lighting is shining. 45-degree angle. At the moment I'm using the softbox as the main lighting, creating a cool glare on your tomatoes. For example, you can use another trick and use your camera in the opposite directions. Looked at you. Let's try. Ready? 1, 2, 3, let's go. Great. You keep trying. You keep trying several times, and one of them takes when everything aligned perfectly. When the movement of the products you are throwing becomes unpredictable, that's it, and at this moment you can tilt your camera slightly. So when you move, you can slightly tilt the horizon. You can go straight to your products to get them in focus. For example, I'm using a mobile phone, the same thing, just switching the Pro mode and you're ready. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, forward, and excellent. Also, if you want to add some dynamic to your camera, but still are afraid to shoot handheld, you can place your camera on a towel, focus it rightly on the shooting spot, focus it on a shooting spot like this, and you can even throw the product onto the camera yourself and use the towel to move your camera while shooting from a low angle as if we're shooting directly from the table. Look. The only inconvenience is that you have to gather the products all over the kitchen, but literally 2, 3, 4, 5 attempts and one of them turns very successful. And it looks amazing during the editing. You can use different speed ramps, slightly increase or decrease the speed, and the effect turns out absolutely fantastic. You can do the same thing with kitchen. You just throw them out on your camera. At this moment, you can even use the both hands. You can throw your kitchen utensils onto the camera and move your hand at the same time. And that's it. The shot is taken. There is also a cool trick that you can use right in your kitchen. You take your camera or mobile phone and position them with the lens facing upward. If you're using a mobile phones, you don't have to worry about focus. If you're using a camera, set the focus and this distance, and you can do the food photography. Yes. So, and you have a lot of mess, a lot of dirt. You have to wash all of this and collect them products all over the time from the kitchen. And we drop these berries from a height of above probably half a meter onto our lens. And it turns out it creates an incredible effect. If you worry about the safety of your lens, or for example you throw in large items like papers,
Многогабаритные, как, например,
surface between your mixer and the lens, or cover it with
стеклянную поверхность себе на объектив или закрыть его вот такой вот большой
a large glass
стеклянной банкой.
jar like this, and you will get a slight blur effect, and you won't have to worry about your lens safety, and you can simply throw its objects onto the camera. It looks very
Себе на камеру. Это
impressive as well when you shoot in this way, so you can set the lights perpendicular and flashlights or any small light source and simulate sunlight by shining your flashlight directly into the lens. This way you will get
прямо себе в линзу.
these beautiful flares like a sunset. So you can use similar techniques if you want to capture the work of a mixer, for example. Take the mixer,
Например, берем
remove the top cover, place the camera over it, pour in some vegetable vegetables or fruits and position your camera up from above. Focus, and you can use a wide angle or about like 35-50 millimeters. Just focus on the edges and start throwing the products in there, and when you start working you will get an amazing and unique shot from inside your device. Many people shoot similar scenes from the side, but then you lose the presence effects, so you can get a somewhat blurry and not very high quality image, so you just shoot the top cover. If you worry about your lens safety, you can place something between your mixer and lens, like a glass or transparent surface, maybe even a clear plate, and you will achieve incredible, unique and cool shots. I am moving on. I'm moving on to step number 8, and now we'll be simulating the work of a beam machine. You've probably seen this effect in various music videos or blockbusters, where bright highlights start to appear in controlled lighting. We can achieve a similar effect using a regular product like this in your kitchen conditions. Look at how you can just diversify your image. This effect looks fantastic, just like this. And if you combine the use of pulverizer with your camera and move it towards your product while spraying them with water, you will get an amazing effect. Products with water droplets on them always looks vibrant, and they also create additional reflections on their surface. Here you can use macro shooting on both your mobile phone and camera and capture all these highlights in motion. Try to catch the reflections of sunlight from the window or your lighting equipment. You can take your lighting equipment in your hands and experiment with lighting effects by reflecting the lights off the droplets you create with the pulverizer. If you simply put water onto your product, you won't be this kind of droplets, so you should always use a pulverizer or something like this. Additionally, you can use the pulverizer against a black backwards in slow motion mode. Turn off all the lights, create a black background, and you will achieve a rain effect over your product. The same effect can be created using floor, just like a smoke machine used in shooting music videos. But now we will need an assistant. If you set the shutter speed a bit slower, even on a mobile phone, when shooting something like baking or making pizza, you can use this technique. Try it out. For example, we are making dough and capturing the process. Set the shutter speed a bit slower and then start moving. If you combine camera movements with a slight tilt, you will achieve unique shot. And in the world this will looks incredibly simple. We step back a bit and approach, and we have such a cool effect. Like snow falling, creating a mound of floor. You can shoot the same way from above. Yes, so you can set up a tripod or use the hands perpendicular to it and repeat the movement. You can use all the tricks we mentioned earlier. You can approach, you can pan, you can come from above. You can approach it below, you can lower the camera, sprinkle a bit more, and capture how the floor falls a bit higher, just like this, and you shoot against the lights, against your lighting device background, with floor falling. Beautiful, and you shoot in the slow motions, like how the floor falls on this mount. An incredible effect. The most important thing is to have compositions, so don't forget about compositions rules. Don't forget that your board should be a different color, so the background of the board should contrast with the floor background, so we can choose a slight darker background. The background you're shooting against can be either a drop, yes, if you don't like your background, and then your background can be black, or you can slightly upwards and use the board itself as a background for your shot. Or you cook and you will use it as a prop. In this case, we are just preparing dough, for example, and now let's get ready. Now trick number 8. We getting into action. We start chopping, cutting, grating our products. Now we don't need my assistant, so watch. We'll be cutting, demonstrating with a cucumber. We'll be cutting our cucumber, so we set up tables like this. Our light is at 45-degree angle. The second light we will use as a fill light, so you can place a reflector here and it creates an additional highlights. So you can use a flashlight to add another highlight to your product. And look, we place our product perpendicular to the lens and start moving together, trying to move with the knife. So as soon as the knife goes down, we can turn our camera sideways. And every time, 1, 2, 3 and sideways. 1, 2, 3 and sideways. And now you can look, we already have slide cucumber. You can either approach with the camera, try it again. So 3, 1, 2, 3 and forward. Excellent. Or you can already bring the pre-slides product to the camera. That's it. We have objects coming into focus. Right now they are out of focus. And on the count of 3, you can enter such a compositions and, for example, make the final move. It's just like an orchestral work, and you start combine different camera movements with the movements happening on your cutting board. Let's say on the count of 3 you put this cucumber just the final part. Ready? 1, 2 and 3. We created a really excellent and wonderful composition, so our objects went from our focus into focus, and at this time we have, and here again, 1, 2, 3 objects approaches, come into focus and the camera rotates. And we have a double dynamic, just the dynamics for both of our products and the camera. This is one of the techniques we can cut products, so we can also grade them. Impressive shots can be obtained with the help of grater. So look, you can grade your products like what we can grade. So we can grade carrots. Impressive shots can be obtained even with the ordinary. So yes, let's try. I can set up the camera from above. Yes, so we can try it together, a bit slower. I can move together with the object. This way, you synchronize the movement and it results in a very original picture. So you can set up your camera down, try turning it off. And shoot not in close-ups, even if you are shooting on a mobile phone and in arc, so you move your cameras. So you're just following this grater, but look at what we can do. To get your lens inside the grater, you can flip it out inside. You place the lens like this, and you start grating right into the lens. And look at the interesting image we get. We get tilt your camera during work. So let's go. We are shooting in slow motion, so from 1 second, literally from 1 successful second, you can get 2 seconds in editing. Remove all the products. Also, as an original light source, you can use a small flashlight. Place the camera on the side of our product and the flashlight on the other side. And flash on the other effect of our products glowing. If, for example, we are shooting a paper like this, we get the effect of our paper glowing. In the words, we are literally shooting through our products. Today, food photography. A modern and even fashionable separate genre of videography, even in major cinema, in scenes in restaurants or in the kitchen, so you can see a huge variety of techniques and tricks, created quite recently and even by non-professional cinematographers or rather food bloggers. Here are almost entire shot from a handheld camera, shooting almost all elements in slow motion, that's it, in slow dynamic editing, shooting almost every the smallest sections or process. Using speed ramps. A speed ramp is when the speed in one frame gradually speeds up and then slows down with variable dynamics. So let's go. Contrast light. And handheld camera, you completely follow the subjects. A huge number of transitions from fast movements. Shooting in slow motion allow you to handheld dynamic shooting allow you to capture a large numbers of cool shots in the very short time. And all of this allow you to create advertising videos right in your own kitchen, literally in one evening. Trick number 12. Underwater shooting. So you can use a large aquarium, but I'm going to use a regular glass jar. So what do we do? Fill it with water. Moreover, you can even capture this process. Then place the camera as close as possible. Place the lights as close as possible, so you can even place your own small light next to the jar to illuminate the products you will be lowering into the water. Even if you are shooting on a smartphone, it's the same. You simply position it as close as possible to the jar. And then it's all up to your imagination. You can use such a small underwater housing for shooting fruits or berries. And in slow motion, watch them fly into your frame, creating various bubbles. You can use plain water or carbonated water. You can also use the method to shoot the process of making homemade lemonade, for example. It's very convenient when you use such a small aquarium. You can place it literally if you have a transparent bottom, so you can place it literally on your lens and repeat again. You can also use various inks and paints, then you will need to speed it up the real picture several times. That's all for now. Let's send our products into weight lessons. Today I have these convenient compositions on which I can hang our products using a fishlight line like this. You can hang our products on such a line and shoot them in slow motion. The only thing, look at the light from your main source reaches me like this. Currently directed at me, will serve as the background. So we set our lights in opposition to each other and shoot at 45-degree angle to the main light. We get two cool highlights on the object, and we spin our products and move towards them, and catch the focus. And in slow motion, you can nicely recapture these products. You can lower the camera down and spin it up. You can shoot your camera from above on the table and then lift it up again. And we get this levitation effect of our products above our kitchen table. Technique number 4. Technique number 14. Attended by basic videography workshop, you know that is probably my favorite technique, the first-person perspective. You can add your shot perspective you can add into your shot. For example, when you're cutting, when you're arranging or decorating your dish, you can add your you can add your hands with a knife. You just initially focus the camera on your subject. For example, this will be my knife. And let's take our cucumber. And look, the focus is on the knife. Even if you are shooting with a mobile phone, which is probably even easier, let me show you explain with a mobile phone. Let me show you an example with a mobile phone. And we fasten it, holding our mobile phones at the forearm, and it creates this effect. It creates the effect as and our knife there simply they are tied to each other, and you start cutting the products. And you don't worry, you will need only one good face here. The knife's entry face your subject. And then person shoot, we perfectly match with the shot when your camera was lying horizontally and you tilted it to the side. The point of tilting to the side, this is your stitch point for the future clip. And at the very end, when all our products have levitated, been sliced and you remove them into the water, you sprinkle them salt and pepper, you've completely captured your workspace, your products are ready for cooking, the salad is already prepared. So you start cooking your main course. If you're working with a barbecue or even a regular gas or electric stove, don't forget to capture close-ups, how the fire in close-up shots and attach the camera perpendicular so you can capture the cooking process in the same way, both horizontally and perpendicular, both from the top side. Don't forget about movements, so you're practically moving in and out. The most in handheld shooting is not to take a step. That's it. You are always just balancing and simply shifting on a gimbal, and you keep your shoulders steady. And your camera simply becomes an extension of your arms. Work out for you. So there shaking. Because you are shooting in slow-mo, you are shooting with a wide-angle lens, and this image will look dynamic. And you can always edit the shot you take by hand, and always every time there is exit and enter the point, so you don't have to turn off your camera, don't turn off the record button until you completely remove your camera from the object. Because it's precisely this moment of transitions that can serve as a great moment for stitching. Large number of different transitions. I use these seconds, the post frames, when my camera is raising up, when I'm moving it away from the main subject. In other words, you shoot horizontally or completely vertically. And don't forget about handheld shooting. So friends, today told you about 15 different techniques and tricks for shooting food photography on your regular kitchen. We covered the sacrament. That's it. Just one additional device, it's enough for you, just a camera or like a simple smartphone. About composition rules, try to make your images so your pictures will looks beautiful at the end, so your designer of your frame, because shooting food is quite simple when you already have beauty onto your plate. And remember that it should also be delicious. So friends, we have managed to cover 15 different variants, 15 different tricks of food photography. Actually, there are over 1,000 ways to do it. Even if you just have a camera or smartphone, one light and just one tripod, you're already able to turn your kitchen into a real film studio and start shooting beautiful food films. Ads for your cafe, restaurants or workshop, or a new episode for your food blog. So start right now, practice and shoot your videos. I will waiting for your delicious new videos. I hope my English was not super bad and you understand something. So this video was for really beginners, and I hope it will be helpful for your food business to take some extra shots for your social media. Bye bye. Thank you.